Everyone, I'm Henry Gordon-Smith. I'm the founder and CEO of Agritecture, and we are global urban agriculture and CEA consultants, but we also have a powerful software, which we like to highlight on these webinars. But these webinars are really Ask Us Anything webinars. So you could get me, you could get my colleague Nadeem, you could get my colleague David, and we all have different expertise. And so it's really good to join these webinars to see the different perspectives, but also we really want to focus on adding value to you. We're very passionate about helping people find their next step in the sector. That's why we do a lot of free webinars, a lot of free knowledge, a lot of content on our blog, and some paid products or services for those that want to go further. So again, I'll start today a little bit of a description of what we're going to be talking about, a little bit of an introductory presentation about a part of Agritecture Designer, and then we'll get into any questions you want to ask about the sector or whatever you want to know that I can answer for you that would be helpful. So I'm really, really passionate again about helping people find their next step. I've been doing this since 2011. So I started blogging about urban agriculture and CEA in 2011. Passionate young student trying to share knowledge about this aspect of the future of agriculture that I thought was really undervalued and misunderstood. And that's how Agritecture was born. And since then, we've been adding additional layers of value, including consulting services, and more recently, our farm planning software, Agritecture Designer. So if we take a quick look over here at Agritecture Designer, I just want to show you something and highlight one part of it. Thanks, welcome. So happy to have you here, Fernanda. So Agritecture Designer, of course, you can learn about at design.agritecture.com, and you're also able to sign up completely for free to test out some of the features and benefit from some of the aspects of the software and the knowledge you can gain. Again, it's really about providing you data related to the economic uncertainty of the sector, which is definitely happening even more now than before. And this gives you sort of standardized data you can access and manipulate to understand, should you build a greenhouse or vertical farm or container farm, or maybe you have an idea already and how much would it cost, how would it perform? So I can get into some of those features later on, but what I really wanted to highlight today was we have different options for signing up, including once you're done with your free trial, you can sign up for Lite, which lets you do some basic modeling. You can take our online classes with Lite. We were voted the best urban farming classes, the most affordable urban farming classes by Tree Hugger. So a lot of value for this $29 a month. And you can also talk to us about some of our supplier partners. Pro gets you a lot more features, specifically more advanced modeling. So think of a basic model as a quick estimate. Advanced is more detailed, and you can manipulate aspects of the model to refine it. And of course, you have the master class from this one, but also some advanced courses from partners and more detailed aspects of learning for CA you may want to. And then you can also get some deals from the equipment providers. But today I want to talk about our advisor bundle, which is a very appealing service or subscription model that's possible through AD. So what we learned was that some people like to be very independent and model on the software, which you can with Lite and Pro, while others want that plus some additional support from us. Now remember, most of our work historically is consulting. So we're experts at helping entrepreneurs understand their next step, the economics, the challenges, the journey, etc. So the advisor bundle is perfect for somebody who's actually planning a farm because it combines a low-cost version of our services with the software together, which gets you the best, most affordable way to get information and move forward quickly. So this is a breakdown of it. Basically, it's over 6 calls, and this is very high level what you can see on the software describing it before you choose to sign up. And you can do 1 month, you can do 3 months, you can even do 12 months, and I'll showcase some of what that is. But what we're doing is we're building your model with you, we're working on your pricing for your crops, etc. You can sort of see the activities here. So this is where you can learn about it on the main page, but I'm just going to give you a very short overview of the advisor bundle and answer any questions about it, and then we can move into open questions about what you're looking for. So again, this is a hybrid consulting service, software plus consulting, which we're getting great feedback on, and we wanted to share that with you. So first, let's talk about our process. You know, when I was a young student, I actually started studying this topic, and I had to design a vertical farm with Dr. Dixon DePommier, author of The Vertical Farm, and considered one of the fathers of vertical farming. And in that course, I couldn't find the data necessary to estimate what my vertical farm could grow. There really is not available data about yields or economics or even details of water use that you could just get online. And so I was very frustrated. I was digging through academic data, but through the process of that project, I was able to develop a methodology that we still use across our consulting and our software. So this is sort of the process in relation to the software. You log in, create your account. Again, I shared some of the options there. You can learn the best practices. This is not just a buzzword, best practices. There are best practices that we know about planning these kinds of farms, and then there are worst practices. So the best practices are established, they work, they will reduce your risk dramatically relative to not practicing them. So, why wouldn't you learn from the mistakes of the past? And why wouldn't you learn what are the best practices? That's what you'll learn in these classes. What crops are popular? What are the business models? How do you think about choosing your technology? How do you build your economic model? How do you think about who you should be selling to? All of those things, and what is typically done and what is the best practice for you, depending on your budget and your project. So contextualized, but also just a lot of the typical best practices that everyone should know about. So that's the classes. That's where we encourage you to start by learning. The next step is to think about who's going to buy your product. We emphasize this in the classes a lot. Very, very important. A lot of us get stuck on the technology or the idea of running the business or the brand, but in fact, it's the product you're growing and selling. Whether it's lettuce or tomatoes or microgreens or mushrooms or whatever you want to design using our software, you need to do the market research. So we've created a tool, which was demonstrated in some other webinars, about how you can do market research and how algorithms and our databases can help you choose the right price and size of your package, et cetera, for your market and who you're selling to. Number 3 is getting into modeling your farm. So now you know what the market is willing to pay for and what's interesting from a crop perspective. We can actually model a farm in that market, calculate all the aspects of the energy demand, the water demand, the labor, how much you're going to grow, et cetera, and bring in the data from the market research to be able to refine that model to make it more accurate on what your market's going to do. So again, it's like a feasibility study in minutes, but really based on accurate market data that you conducted through the software. Number 4, you can start now to think about specific equipment solutions. We have an expanding network of partners that we work with that are willing to provide quotes to you faster and in some cases discounts as you're a subscriber to the software, whether it's one of the other subscription levels or whether it's an advisor level. Once you've looked at them, you can tell us a little bit more about what you want, what you like about them, what you don't, and you can request quotes from them. So you tell us, okay, we're interested in these companies, and we will actually go out and request those quotes from them to help get you some accurate estimates for that. Okay, a few more things. So we're almost at the end here. You meet with the vendors, you talk to them, you get the finalized quotes. You might want to update the model in your software in AD with the quotes. For example, you may get a quote that says the lighting is actually more expensive because you wanted a higher quality light. We want to update that in the models. Your economics are clear there. And then number 9 is you can sort of finalize that and begin building your farm. There's other parts to planning CA businesses, but this is the advisor bundle approach that's based upon our feasibility study methodology. We can always provide additional support for other things you might need, whether it's aspects of your recruiting plan, whether it's aspects of preparing for raising money, et cetera. There's a lot of other areas that Agritecture can help you with. But those are sort of the 9 steps of the process with Agritecture Designer. And an Agritecture Designer's advisor bundle, you're going to get the ultimate support with those steps. So someone who's dedicated to support you every step of the way could be David, could be Nadeem, could be one of our other colleagues that assist you with that, but mostly David and Nadeem do this. So again, we're going to really refine your model, make sure you're not making any mistakes, discuss the best practices you've learned about in the classes, and give you really a personalized touch through 2 calls per month to get you going and get your farm planned. So again, we can go through the planning stages. I mentioned some of the things we're featuring and supporting there. We can do the development stage as well, and we can do operational stage as well. So there's additional support that you can get from us through the process. I always love hearing from customers. So we've got some great quotes, many testimonials about the software, with the classes or the advisor bundle or various things. And we've had even individuals who have built farms after going through the advisor bundle model, which is faster and more detailed than some of the other options because you have a dedicated consultant helping you through the process. Here are the fees again. It's $4.99 a month for the typical advisor bundle. That's where you're doing it monthly. Again, you could do that for 3 months, and you'll definitely have your business plan ready by then. And then there's, again, some requirements related to the research or additional hours you might want from us. Some people choose an annual subscription. This is maybe for a bigger farm, or because you really want to plan in more detail, or you just want our support longer term. This is another possible option. So these are the lowest cost ways to engage with our consulting team. Again, we're typically doing deals that are in the tens of millions of dollars as far as the CapEx is concerned for our consulting. So we are really trying to create access to our expert team, even for those individuals that are planning smaller farms or want to do this hybrid approach where they want more independence with the software, but still get a bit of a personal touch. So that's what this is made for. This is why it's interesting. This is how much it costs. This is the details of it. So that's it for my introduction today and what I wanted to share in case you weren't aware of the advisor bundle. So I'm happy to answer any questions about the advisor bundle or any other questions you have. You can ask questions in the chat. And then I'll probably ask you to say it verbally, right? So you can raise your hand, I can call on you, you can choose to turn video on or not. You can really ask me anything about this. So I guess I'll start off first of all, are there any questions about the advisor bundle or about Agritecture Designer specifically? Always difficult to get the first one, but we got someone. Automation, what's included at the time of calculating the finance part? I use the light plan so far. Thank you for being a customer, Susanna. We appreciate you trying Agriculture Designer. Number 2, are the partner list enlisted all existing ones or are more offered within other plans? Number 3, are the information we added in the market research tool used and shared with others? Wow, these are great questions. Okay. So for automation, Nadeem, you might have a good answer to this one. I don't think there's a difference between the light and the other plan, but I think you can select automation when you're filling in the form. So let me just show that. Give me 1 second here for these good questions. Just pulling this up for you. Okay. So, Susanna, this is an advanced model, which you may not have access to on the light plans. That's probably why you're not seeing it. And then in the advanced model estimate that I'm building, I can look at automation level. And this will explain how we are considering automation and levels of that. So high automation is like basically a semi-automated facility. It's going to have much higher CapEx where you're automating aspects of seeding and transplanting and packaging. Medium is a little bit obviously less than that. And then low is mostly manual labor. So this is where you can consider automation in the business model, and that'll change how it looks once you get the report at the end. Regarding the partner list is the same, and the partners are the same across all plans. So all users benefit from our partners, and there's no difference between that. I would say if somebody did the advisor bundle, we may look for some other options that are not listed in some cases, depending on what your farming business is. If you have a suggested supplier or someone you're considering talking to, it might be beneficial to notify us of that, so we can consider them bringing on as a partner. We may have a relationship with them already that is a different kind of partnership that might be valuable to you. So don't hesitate to say, are you working with this company, or can we connect with this company, or can I get a quote from that company, etc. This could be a way to do it. Regarding the market research tool and that question, so as you input the information, it lives within your library of crops. Agritecture sees what you put in there, but other people don't see what you put in there. And it is added to an overall database, which we review and analyze and update that data. So sort of an aggregate benefit to all the Agriculture Designer community members, but they don't know specifically what crop you did or what pricing or any of that. That's all your private information. But again, there is information coming into the general Agritecture database as a result of what you're submitting. And again, we're giving you information from our database. I hope that answers your question. Great. Good start. Like that. So Susanna, if you have any questions about the other plans or what you should do or anything you're experiencing, please let me know. We're happy to talk about it more. Appreciate Susanna. I love that. 3 questions at once. Okay. Saeed, I have a question regarding liability. Let me look this up here 1 second. Saeed's question is, how certain is AD regarding the advice being given to clients in the event the device is desired outcome is any form of warranty or guarantee? Saeed, do you want to have a conversation about this? Or I just like to make it more engaging. If you're comfortable asking the question on video, I could ask you to speak or just chat. Can I do that? I think I can do that. Let me see here. I just like to make it a little bit more interesting. It doesn't look like I can have you speak. Is that right? Maybe not. Okay. So sure. Sarah, are you aware if I could do that? I thought I could do that before. Sorry, I'm a little bit casual today on this, but
do what before?
Like when someone raises their Said, can you try raising your hand? I think I can allow you to speak if you raise your hand.
Yeah, you can.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
I got
okay,
you.
Great. Okay, hi Saeed, how are you doing?
Good, nice to see you. I'm always enjoying talking to you.
Yes, always a pleasure talking to you too. So I see you said you're with the AVF in Canada, which is great. So your question is about warranties with the data. First of all, let me talk about the data. So we spent 2 years building this software and looking at our 10 years of data and speaking with academic experts to review it, even some commercial farmers. And we were very cautious before we put the data out there. So I would say it's an estimation tool, and you should understand that. And there's levels of accuracy to estimation. It's obviously dramatically cheaper than our feasibility studies, which typically will be $50,000 or more. So you're getting a lot of the knowledge for a much lower cost, which also affects some of the level of how you can manipulate that data and even the level of detail we get into with that data. But I would say we're quite confident with the accuracy of the data. I mean, the other day I was with a vertical farm, and they reverse engineered their farm in the software, and they were a little shocked how accurate the economics were based on them reverse engineering their farm in the software. With that said, we don't have any warranty or guarantee for that. There's a lot of risks with new businesses. There's a lot of variability in agriculture. What we do know is that we have sufficient experience to give advice, and we will continue to do that through various parts of it. But unfortunately, there's no warranty, not unfortunately, but it's just not appropriate, I think, for a warranty or a guarantee with that. Now, if someone hires us for consulting, there are a few more stipulations and protections for a service agreement than there would be for software. Does that answer your question, Saeed?
Yes, almost. But my reason that for this question, because as I met you on the Green Tech in Amsterdam, so every year we have lots of innovation and good information that we can implement in the vertical farm. And vertical farm are growing like every day. So how frequently you update your information and your software, and people can get the most advanced and the updated information? You said you spent 2 years, and I believe before that 2 years you spent another 10 years to get this together. But how advanced and updated information the client can get from the software?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, because like you said, things are changing, things are evolving in the sector, and there's improvements. So, our team tries to update or review the data very frequently, but I'd say quarterly, we're trying to do some updates to that data. So we have dedicated team members that are responsible for looking at that data, updating it, et cetera. We also have a consulting team that is producing some data that sometimes needs to be fed into the software to benefit the wider software, users and accuracy. I think also another way we do this is through our partners. So when we bring on a new partner, we actually they have to submit some data so that we can create some richness with their profile. In some cases, we actually use that data and work with them to build templates which are based on that. So if they have an innovation or something new, et cetera, we could do that. And even our automation feature that I mentioned is a new addition. Like we didn't have those levels of automation yet. So we looked at the sector, we looked at the technology providers, our partners, and we updated that and created that automation option on there. So we're always adding new things to it where possible to optimize it and improve it. So that's what that is. So I would say, does it keep up with the pace of CEA? I think it does. I think that our software still keeps quite a good pace with it. I think that the speed of the sector could improve more, it could speed up more rapidly. But again, I hope by that time, the software will be bigger, we'll have more customers, we'll have more resources to be able to continue to keep it updated. So yeah, and then also I think it's important to know that this is an estimation, right? So if I estimate my greenhouse and I say, okay, medium automation, and then I contact Agritecture and say, okay, can I get the quotes for the automation providers and the greenhouse, et cetera? Those quotes are going to have a level of guarantee to them because they're from an actual supplier that's going to sell the equipment for an actual cost. And there's some levels of performance that they need to tell us about, which is why updating the model is important with those costs and potentially aspects of the performance. So it's not like, again, Agritecture Designer shouldn't, I mean, some people it has, but it shouldn't replace, all those other aspects of planning the business, including getting the quotes and updating your business plan with those quotes. So I think like those innovations are always going to be the latest that you get in the quotes. You're always going to get the latest numbers from the suppliers when they give you the quotes.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. How are things going with the AVF in Canada? What's your role like?
It's getting more and more people interested to be a member, and we have a lot of the even academic in the university. Lots of students are willing to change their career to the vertical farming. I have a couple of students here at Queen's University, and so many other universities are asking for the training and learning more about this evolution of agriculture. So it's going well. Oh.
Exciting that there's interest, and Canada has certainly great opportunities for CEA right now, and in the future, I think also more. So it's a very interesting market. I don't know if you know, but I co-founded the AVF. I think maybe we talked about it.
Of course.
But
yes,
a little flashback to the past. But it's always great to bring people together and to foster collaboration. So I admire that. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your effort and your sharing your experience and knowledge. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we all try in our own ways to help out. Okay, thank you for that question. Really appreciate it. And any other questions? We still have time. Ask me anything about vertical farming, greenhouses, urban agriculture, software.
If there's any option that I can ask any other question.
Yeah, you could definitely ask. You could definitely ask another question.
Because this is a very good opportunity for me and all the listeners to know that if you can provide a rating or a score for the different available, for example, controller or software, different LED light, different growing system. If you can give us some basic rating or your preferences, that would be very helpful for everybody that knows what is the best or what is the actual top supplier in the market.
Sure. Yeah, I can understand why people want to know who the best suppliers are and also want to hear our take on them. So I'll give you a couple of thoughts on that. First of all, on the software, we have an equipment marketplace that you can search. It's also public, even if you're not a user. So you can find it on the main page as well. And this is not so much us rating them, but again, we're helping to sort of categorize and help guide you on where you're going to be located and what the benefit is that you're going to have from working with them or not. So again, there's aspects of this that's going to showcase, what's the minimum budget for the project, where do they operate, what kind of operations, delivery time, which is an important thing to consider, et cetera. Longer term, we want to add a data model assessment where we do they can submit more detailed models and we can rate them on certain levels of transparency and accuracy and sort of benchmark them related to competitors. So we want to get there. We need to get more users in the software and more growth before we can invest in that fully. But that's like sort of why this is missing here, because it's something we intend to build. So this is pretty basic, but it does describe, who they are, where they are, and all of that. The first thing to note is that there's no suppliers that are listed on here that haven't gone through some kind of vetting process. So if you're looking for at least some of the best suppliers, we're quite proud of the suppliers that have joined our partner network, and we've done some due diligence on them, which is why we're able to put the Agritecture name behind them. Nothing's perfect, but again, we do some vetting for that as well. I will say that on the consulting side of our work, we do provide specific equipment matrices. So we provide a matrix where we say, okay, these are the suppliers, and we actually rate them on aspects of customer service, performance, price, etc. Because just like with the software, we're trying to give information to our customers or our clients to have them be informed to make the right decisions. In the end, it's your decision. So our job is to get information. So the equipment matrices are there. We don't have that in the software in any way yet, but any software customer is welcome to request an equipment matrix from us if they want more detail. And you may get some of those answers through the process of requesting a quote as we introduce you to suppliers and give you advice about which ones are the best. As far as in general, which ones are the best, that's a difficult question, Saeed, because are we talking about lighting? We're talking about equipment. So I don't know if I answered your question fully, but I think those points were important. But is there a specific product you want an opinion on, or are you really just like looking for a list of the best lighting companies?
Yes, let's talk about the LED lighting, because it's a major investment and the major challenge of the vertical growers. Yeah.
In my opinion, and a lot of LED lighting companies might not like this, but in my opinion, as the efficiency of the LEDs has advanced, and as just innovation has been stimulated by cannabis and incentives and just the vertical farming sector in general, I mean, they're all quite similar, right? So like all the LED chips also come from two different suppliers in the end. And the quality of the chip, you can research about where that comes from, but in the end, they come from there. So the question really is about like the form factor, the heat it creates, et cetera. And those questions are best answered by the farm itself. Like how dense is your farm going to be? Are you in a place where you happen to have a little bit of extra space where you can create more ventilation? Are you in a place where you're super real estate constrained, we need to go smaller? If we're going for a smaller, tighter operation where everything needs to fit in a smaller space, I'm going to be a big fan of saying we need to reduce heat to the maximum amount. And I want to pick things with a low form factor, maybe in some cases, other cooling strategies that exist, et cetera. So, that's how I would think about it. And some companies have a range of fixtures, or most companies do now, that can do, again, smaller form factor versus larger form factor and more powerful output. So the question really comes to like what crop you're growing and what's the right match for that. But I think beyond that, I really think the question I like to ask my clients, like, how important is, I get the costs are very high for, say, Signify lights, but how important is the additional support you're going to get? If you're a first-time farmer, is it valuable for you to get the benefit of all of Signify's past research and all the operations they've done with vertical farming you can learn from? And again, Signify is not an official partner of Agritecture, so I'm just naming a company. But they are expensive, they are high quality, high end. So when you're thinking about that option, you're thinking about what is the added value of that customer support. That's how I like to really think about it. If you want to go for a lower cost option from China or a less well-known name, the risk you're taking there is that there's less of a guarantee and warranty, which was important to you earlier, on the product's performance. So you're saving on the costs of the CapEx, which is fine. That's a decision you can make. And LEDs, will advance. You may be able to replace those lights later on, but those lights could go out, right? And there's definitely circumstances where the lights don't last the 70,000 hours they typically are going to, et cetera. Now, as far as other aspects of lighting, like spectrum, very important, but also very important to consider what your crop is, right? And like what specifically you're growing. I think a lot of new entrants to the space will say, what's the best light? But the question really is, what are you growing? So again, it goes back to that first question of market research. What are you growing? How big is the farm, et cetera? And we can find the right lighting to match that. But there's not like a single top performing lighting company that I would recommend every time that dominates the others. You actually have many viable options for lighting for vertical farms, is the short answer to the question.
Excellent, thank you. Because this is a chance, I want to ask another question if you allow me.
Sure. Anybody else is welcome to raise their hand if they have questions, but I
Yeah,
think you're asking ones
be-
that other people are interested in. So
because
that's
this is a question that only you can answer because you travel all around the world and you visit so many different vertical farms and in person with your eyes rather than seeing on the paper and news. Because personally, I spend 1-2 hours every day to um, understand what is the best and new
cool.
vertical farming technology. But you have done this for the real world, and you have seen a lot of vertical farm. The question is,
Yeah.
are you believe that vertical farm can actually go to the carbon neutral and zero carbon in emission, or it is still is a claim, or still is not possible in the real world? How, if we
Thanks for
can
that.
use all the green energy, all the renewable energy, is that enough? Is that technology can make it to go with the zero carbon or not?
Yeah, thanks for that question. It's a really interesting one. And you know, I have had the privilege of visiting maybe more vertical farms than anyone, but like it's very exciting to see them. Almost none of them are renewable powered. So like very few on the list of, I don't know, 100 plus vertical farms I've visited are powered by renewable energy. So there's a lot of greenwashing in the sector they've talked about a lot. And so this is a very important topic. The greenwashing mostly relates to, we reduce the carbon footprint by bringing the farm close to the customer, which yes is true, but if you really look at the data, depending on where you're located, you know, the transportation carbon footprint is minimal relative to the carbon footprint from a coal-powered vertical farm, for example. So it really is about, in addition to like being honest about your sustainability impact, it's about where the source of the energy is. And most vertical farms are powered by non-renewable sources. So they can't really claim to be green, and they're certainly not on a pathway to being part of a carbon reduction strategy or net zero. Now, recently, I got to visit Yasai in person, and I had seen some of their content, and I had seen that they were promoting that they were powered by renewable energy and that they were circular. I was like, hey, well, how are you circular? Like, you know, is that a buzzword, or like, are you actually doing that? And I got to visit the farm just, I think, a month and a half ago. And it was pretty cool. You know, I mean, 100% renewable powered vertical farm, right? So they buy renewable energy. There's another one called Dream Harvest in Texas that does that. There's a couple of others, like farms in Quebec, for example, where there's a lot of hydro energy or renewable energy. So, but they made that, you know, they made that intention, but at the same time, they're benefiting from the fact that Switzerland is mostly renewable powered. So for me, a lot of the journey towards net zero or carbon neutral from the energy consumption perspective is highly dependent upon the available energy in the country itself. And so I think as an entrepreneur, you have to think about, okay, is my country or my region on a pathway to have more renewable energy? Because I don't want every single vertical farm that I build to be creating more carbon in the atmosphere. It's just kind of anti-vertical farm, or anti like the mission of the industry, or what I think the mission of the industry should be, which is to be more resilient and more sustainable. So like some people, I feel like I'm empathetic because they don't really have the choice. Like if I'm in whatever, if I'm in a state that doesn't have a lot of renewable power in the US and I'm building a farm and that's where I live, then what am I going to do about it? But with that said, almost every state in the US, you can spend a little bit of extra money to buy renewable energy, right? There are renewable energy sources. And we're seeing that in Europe, for example, there's a lot more renewable energy that's available. Obviously, with the stipulation of the energy crisis and the difficult winters that we were lucky last winter, but next winter we may not be. So I think that, you know, again, part of the onus is on where the renewable energy transition is going, which will benefit the carbon neutrality potentially of vertical farming. But I think it also really begins with the entrepreneur and making it a priority to you. Yasai, in addition to the fact that they're in Switzerland, this mattered to them. This is something that they care about. They talk about it. You can tell it's part of the company culture. The circularity they have in the system is also really interesting because they capture the waste heat and they use it to power the sort of warehouse spaces around the farm, or to heat them, as well as to heat some of the water for some of the uses that they have. So that's like being circular with the resources as well. They also chose to have a biodegradable substrate, which is you don't see very often. So I thought that was also admirable. So again, I really see this beginning with the leaders. Because in contrast, I've spoken with AeroFarms and like I've been very critical about their greenwashing claims historically. I spoke to their CEO one-on-one. He says, "Oh yeah, we get it. Like we're going to do better, etc." You know, we have certain parameters we're looking for when we choose a new market for a new farm, and you know, one of those parameters is the renewable energy. I said, okay, well, if you've got 35 parameters and one of them is if it's renewable energy, then it's not really a priority for you, right? So I think again, it's like the culture of the company and the leadership and what's going to matter to them to get there. But you know, the emissions from the source of energy is only a part of the puzzle. If you look at the Square Roots sustainability article that their CEO Tobias Peggs posted on LinkedIn, which I thought was very interesting, they did a sort of semi-life cycle analysis and found that the embodied energy of the equipment was actually quite a significant part of their carbon footprint. So to get to true, you know, carbon neutrality is going to be very difficult with systems that have this much embodied energy, and that's the energy, the energy that was needed to create the material, and the various emissions from the creation of that material is embodied energy. So, you know, these buildings have lights, microchips, racks, plastics, climate control systems. I mean, there's so much technology in these vertical farm boxes that there's a lot of embodied energy to that. So I think to get to like a truly carbon neutral vertical farm, a high-tech vertical, is very difficult. I don't know if I see that happening anytime soon. But I do see the renewable energy mix in various markets expanding more rapidly, and there being renewable powered vertical farms as a bigger part of the future of this sector. And I think that's we're going to see more of that, and I'm excited about that. Hope that answers your question.
Sure.
Okay, Rohan,
Thank you.
Rohan has the courage. Sarah, can we pull Rohan up? And we'll
Yeah,
let Said
totally.
go. Thank you, Said. Appreciate your questions, and thanks for your enthusiasm and being a first mover on the questions as well. Actually, I guess we give that credit to Susanna.
Hi, Henry. I'm audible.
Hi, how are you, Ron?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm pretty good. You know,
Good.
entrepreneurship,
Good.
life.
Yes, great. So I'll quickly just ask my question. So how do you think the landscape of energy efficiency of diodes is going to change in the next decade?
I mean, I think the energy efficiency of LEDs is pretty much plateaued at this point. I don't think we're going to see major improvements in that over the next 10 years. I think that there would need to be a completely new innovation in illumination.
Do you think the cost is also going to come down, as well as the energy efficiency is going to go up and the cost may come down as what is already in the market?
Well, are you familiar with Height's law?
Yes.
Okay, so Heights' law, just like Moore's law, is applied to illumination. So it's the observation and forecast about the steady improvement of many years of LEDs. And so what we see here is that as the flux and efficiency or output of the LEDs goes up, the cost goes down. And this is very similar to Moore's law because LEDs are made with microchips. So this journey has been going, but you can see even from this chart, we're past the date on this chart. So the costs and the efficiency and the costs, they are related and they will go down. What I'm saying is that I think it's plateaued a little bit. So we're not having as much of, like over the past 10 years, we've seen really massive advancements, but it's slowing down. I mean, it can only advance so much. We're even seeing that across the board with various aspects of microchips and computer power, how powerful our phones can be. You can't always, you know, double efficiency and cut costs by 50% forever. And we've been going on that trajectory for 15, 20 years. So I think I don't think it's going to based on
where do you think that the industry has where do you think the industry has already reached? That's it.
Where do I think it's reached on Heights' law?
Yes, where do you, on the scale, on the graph you just showed, where do you think the innovation or the industry has already reached?
That's a good question. I don't know if I could put it directly on this this chart specifically, but I would say, again, we are plateauing. So we basically, we're seeing incremental development improvements. I'm gonna go backwards. We're seeing small improvements, but not as rapid. So like the stage of the greatest energy efficiency improvements in LEDs has passed, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Why this specific question? I'm curious. Why are you so curious about the lights? Are you going to buy some, or what are you looking for? Oh,
Is it for me?
yeah, I'm just curious. I'm always curious about what you're doing, and like, what are you doing, and why are you asking these questions specifically? It's a good question, but I'm just curious why.
Actually, I do a lot of different things. I back in the days when Philips was the first company to develop a horticulture light, I developed my own.
Oh,
But my blueprints got stolen. I couldn't make money out of that. But I am an indoor enthusiast, and I basically pivoted my startup to outdoor hydroponics. But I am really interested in indoor hydroponics. Apart from that, I do a lot of different research work for the time being. So that is just to have the knowledge that how the landscape of indoor agriculture is going to change in the coming years. That is why I just thought I think you are the only person in the world, to be really honest, who could have answered these questions.
well, I mean, thanks for the question, and thanks for sharing your journey. And yeah, I get really excited about other people being in the sector, and I really know what I went through to get information in the early days, and I'm just super passionate about being open and answering those questions. So thanks for saying that, Rohan. I appreciate it, and we're here to help. We're here to get this and continue the industry growing and get through these difficult times that we're facing now. So we've got a little bit of time left. Do we have any more questions from our
Thank you,
colleagues?
Henry.
My pleasure, Rohan. Thank
you.
you to you. Thanks for joining. We've got Galaxy A42 5G here, my favorite guest. Ivan, Marcia, Fernanda, do you have any questions? Anything you want to ask? This is your chance to get a free opinion or information. Okay, Marcia, I like it. Let's pull Marcia up. Sarah, can you let Saeed and Rohan, if you can remove them from here so you can give space for the others? Otherwise, let's start with Marcia. If you can give her is it Marcia or Marcia? Okay, so we'll get Marcia and Elaine. Let's start with you. Is it Marcia?
Hi, so it's Marcia.
Marcia. Okay, nice to meet you, Marcia.
Yeah.
How's it going?
Nice to meet you. So I had a quick question. I'm a student at the University of Maryland, and
Cool.
I'm a part of this group of students that is working towards a potential student startup that has to do with agritech. And I was wondering, how early in a startup process do you help out? Would you want like a startup to be kind of like already developed and have some sort of investing file prior to working with them, or can you just advise them off the bat?
Yeah, so I mean, on our consulting, which again is a more premium, high touch, like white glove service, it's important you have some funding in place, or at least understand what you're going to need to spend for the consulting, because consulting is like detailed expert support, a lot of data, a lot of reports intended to accelerate you. Some people hire us when they have a little bit of family and friends funding, and they want to raise more money because the feasibility studies we do and even some endorsements from us will help them raise money. But the consulting it's a premium service. So that's important to have some money in place. So we like to have clients that have some budget in place for that. Now the software, which I think really is a child born of Agritecture's like commitment to transparency and building the sector, and really our hope that anyone anywhere can get access to this data. Like, it's not free, but we've made it as cheap as possible. So doesn't require you to have you can be anywhere. All you need to have is questions, basically. So it's really good for a startup. And even we allow startup teams to do the advisor bundle that I explained at the beginning. So, it's flexible. You can start with 1 month, you can extend to 3 months, but that's a good thing that we've seen some startup teams utilize. So the teams join the calls and sort of the whole team is benefiting from getting some coaching from Agritecture, plus being able to use the software to sort of manipulate data and come up with their plan. So the short answer is, for Agritecture Designer, you can be as early as you want. I mean, some people are just taking the classes to learn, right? And sometimes they just sign up, take the classes, and they're done. And some people stick around and they're like using it as an ongoing tool. So there's no requirement for you and your team for that one. It's a product you can sign up for online, and we accept anybody to do that. But the consulting is a bit more, you have to be prepared and have at least an idea of your budget and your location and your crops, something like that, or be willing to pay for us to do that information for you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Nice to meet you, and I wish you the best with that startup, and hopefully, we can be of some assistance to you. But if you're looking at agri-tech, I mean, our classes are definitely worthwhile as some kind of starting point for this sector. If you have further questions, you can let me know. I'm happy to assist. And one of our first clients was in Maryland. It's the Phillips programs, which is a special needs school. We built a vertical farm for them. Exactly. There's Nadeem with a very concise answer. Nadeem works with us. He's our product manager, and you can see his answer in the chat there. So let's move over to you, Elaine. How are you, Elaine Wood?
I'm good, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay, perfect.
I'm
working with a nonprofit in Texas, and we've been given some hydroponic a setup that was donated to us, and we've got some grant money in place, some matching funds in place, and we are trying to set up a small vertical farm, very small sort of vertical farm in sort of the DFW Metroplex area. So I'm probably gonna, and I apologize, I came in a little bit late to the conversation because I have a day job. But we're going to, I'll probably try to take that course to get comfortable with the software. But in general, my question was a little bit more about from an industry standpoint. One of the things that we would like to be able to do for this funding that we're getting, we've already been told we've got the funds coming, but we would like to be able to show sort of, it's probably going to be a little bit lower tech because of, just being small. But from an industry standpoint, it seems like to the larger companies are going toward the vertical farm from a cost effectiveness standpoint. One of the things that we want to show is that it's less expensive to provide better quality food to people that are from a vertical farm standpoint than pulling it in from say strawberries from Mexico or something like that.
okay, gotcha.
But my concern is that as you're smaller, as you're scaled down, that cost is harder to meet. And I'm just not sure sort of if you can point me in a good direction that says, here's something you should look at to talk about the cost effectiveness. You don't have to be a Bowery Farms or a Arrow Farms in order to, make a cost effective argument here.
Yeah, I love this question, Elaine. I'm so excited to meet you and hear about this, because I really like it when nonprofits think about how CEA can be a part of their impact. So can I just ask a few more questions first? Where are you located again?
We're in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex in Texas.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't know if you know, but we worked with Dallas on the urban agriculture plan that was just published not too long ago. So okay. Look, and so like, do you have can you give me a rough budget? Because that'll help me also answer the questions about the level of tech.
Yeah, so, and I'm going to give you this information. I don't think it's proprietary or anything. We've won a US grant. My understanding is it's $96,000, but we have to, and an additional $10,000 that you have to spend before they start reimbursing it. So right now, I only know of this. They are pursuing other grants as well. It's a group in Dallas. It's a subgroup of a nonprofit called the Awareness Project. So they've got several different things that go on. They're really focused on trying to support lower income and fringe groups like veterans and people who are more cost constrained on things like clothing and food. And the farm is actually going to support the sort of cafe area as well. So they'll be selling like sauces and stuff to the public that's made by people who've grown the produce themselves.
Okay, cool. I love it. Okay, great. So let me just give you some quick insights that are helpful. First of all, the big farms that you see getting all the investment and doing all of this, they're not necessarily successful, and a lot of them are failing. So don't let that get to you. Instead, think about your need a little bit more. And I think bigger is not always better. There's certainly efficiencies that you can get from going bigger. You can get better deals on pricing. You can get some optimization. But big farms haven't necessarily achieved that in vertical farming specifically yet. And in fact, we see a lot of smaller farms selling out of their product, for example, which is a really key part of getting a return on investment or having it make an impact. So sometimes the smaller farms actually have a better chance of being profitable. Most of the smaller farms that I've seen are closer to profitability or profitable, while the bigger farms are not. So hopefully that helps you feel a little bit better and know about it. So when you're working at a nonprofit scale, or maybe with a smaller budget, you want to consider, do I need to go like as high tech? What can I do? So for example, depending on the nonprofit, you may have available spaces in the building. You may want to distribute your farm into different spaces, which has certain benefits because you're using like the room's climate control. Again, your budget's pretty good. But I would say some of these schools or some of these nonprofits that have smaller budgets, I've seen them not actually create major climate control for the system. A nonprofit that I've been a board member at is Teeth Through Justice, and they build these farms in schools and school classrooms. And because of the size of them, they don't always need to change the climate control in the system to achieve their goal, which is very similar to yours. And I'll drop these links in the chat so you can look at these organizations. If you look at Phillips Programs, which is that project in Maryland that we first advised on a long time ago, there's not a ton of detail on their site, but they're very simple systems. And what they've done is they've connected it to the value of the product, right? So the product coming out of here is not what's coming out of AeroFarms. It's better because it's grown by your community and individuals with special needs. So I think the way you increase the value of the product is more important than as far as getting your goal of like making it more reasonably than what you would buy from the strawberries from Mexico in your example. You want to increase the value of the product. And so in some cases you have people who need to get more affordable product. In other cases you have people who support the nonprofit who will pay a premium. So I've also seen models where some farms will sell 1/3 of their product to restaurants at a premium, 1/3 of their product they'll sell at cost, and 1/3 of the product they'll give away to the community or do a discount. So you can also think about it that way as far as sharing your impact, but also creating some revenue off the quality of the product. But again, step one is like really thinking about how you can reduce the capex of your project so that you can be more cost competitive. And with smaller scale projects, again, there are trade-offs. Climate control is great. But for example, if you bought a $100,000 freight farm container and put it outside your location, I wouldn't recommend that. I don't think that's necessarily the best way to spend that money. If you have available spaces within the building, you're going to take that money and make it go further to grow the product and to make the impact you want. This is a food bank that we worked on in the Bronx, no, in Clinton Hill, New York. And you can see actually the structures are made of wood. The lights are fluorescent, not LED, and they're producing lots of greens in the food bank itself. So this is an example of how you can like cut down the capex of the project to just stick to the principles of growing indoors and using that grant in that way. So that's what I would really look at, is like, instead of trying to go the easy way of like just buying equipment off the shelf, what can you do that's more low cost? And actually we have a solution because we try to have solutions for everything at Agritecture, but we have a solution that we don't promote too much, but it exists. It's called Plus Farm. And it's a DIY vertical farming system, very simple. You can learn about it, and you can learn about vertical farming a little bit here, but this is more like basics of vertical farming, not like our classes that go a little bit more into detail. But then you can actually go and, let me show you here. you can look at the options. So we have 3 different systems here. They're small scale, but you can combine them, right? So you can make them bigger. We've got the prices here. We've got the number of plant sites here. You can start to think about what this looks like, and you can even get all the instructions on how to build it. So you can build it with your community, which will help you reduce the costs as well. And I think another benefit of nonprofits is like getting volunteer labor. So if you get like the food bank I mentioned, they have a lot of volunteers that help with it, which reduces the costs. And in those scenarios, you can make a meaningful impact on providing affordable product. That's a lot of information, Elaine, but I tried to answer your question.
No,
So
I
if you have-
appreciate that. And I
Yeah.
honestly, I think we've gotten somebody donated some equipment. I haven't seen it yet, but supposedly somebody has donated our sort of starter kit
Okay, great.
so, but I don't know
That's
what that
free.
looks like yet.
That's
So
great.
I'm really excited.
Yeah, that's
Thank you.
awesome.
Thank you. And
Um,
is this being recorded? Is this something we're going to have access to? Because I did miss the very first part. I'd like to go back and listen to it.
Of course. And actually, we record all of these and we publish them on our YouTube channel at Agritecture. So if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. We've got lots of good content on there, farm tours, webinars like this, tons and tons and tons and tons. So this will probably be published, I don't know, maybe Monday, Tuesday next week on our YouTube. And I believe an email is typically sent out to those that registered as well. So
Perfect. Thank you.
You'll be able to look at that. My pleasure. My pleasure. Good questions. Okay, so to wrap things up here, I just want to thank you all for your engagement. There's a lot of things you can do with your time. We appreciate you joined Agritecture here today to ask some questions. Wish you a great day ahead. You can join our future webinars. They're listed at agritecture.com/events, as well as other events. You can reach out to us. You can try our software, so many options. But the biggest thing you could do for us today is just share with your audience, LinkedIn or Instagram or elsewhere, that you enjoyed this webinar and that Agritecture was helpful to you. Because what that does is that helps other people know that Agritecture is here to help and guide them. And hopefully we can get more people growing more food around the world. So thank you so much to all of you. Really appreciate it. Take care. See you around in the next time. Bye.